before, just in case anybody was wanting to view it later. But so from reading Secrets of the Vine this morning, it's always neat. And I've been doing this a little bit more lately on some of this, is just realizing the context, and our pastor was talking about it too this week when he was teaching. We'll often think about things in the chapters, but obviously as it was originally written, it wasn't chapters and verses and subheadings and those kinds of things. And so the context is really important of this right now. It's actually after the Last Supper. So if you go back through the previous few chapters, it's the Last Supper. It's it's talking about the disciples and their visions of the kingdom coming and the Messiah, and being able to rule by Jesus' side, and having a vital place in the kingdom. And as he starts washing their feet, and a lot of the things start to change in their awareness, and starts talking about one of you will betray me, and John will deny me 3 times. And obviously the mood got a little bit different from how it started at the beginning of that time, as they were having the conversations about the kingdom. And so then they actually say, let's get, the ending of chapter 14 says, let's get up and go. And so it's nighttime after they've had the Last Supper, and they're going, out in this area, and you can just picture Jesus stopping by the vineyards on the way up to Gethsemane. And, it says, in his last message before his death, Jesus wanted you and me to comprehend with our whole being that he has left us on this planet for one compelling reason, and it has everything to do with fruit. He says he didn't want to leave them wondering about their purpose. And so it just, we had a meeting a couple of months ago, and we were talking about our vision, our vision for our lives, for our businesses, and those kinds of things. But really, a lot of times I think we use purpose and vision interchangeably. But I think really for the Christian, our purpose is basically the same. It's to know God, to abide in Jesus, as it says here in the verse, and to bear fruit that remains. And so the idea, again, the picture of Jesus as the vine, and I think he says, I originally pictured this too as the vine bearing the fruit, but really the vine is just that main stalk, the main part of it, and then the Father is the vine dresser. So we are the branches. We are the ones that will bear the fruit. And fruit represents good works. There's no reason to restrict it just to evangelism. He defines it as a thought, action, or attitude that God values because it glorifies him. And so that's made up of inner fruit, which is the fruit of the Spirit, as well as our outer fruit, which is in every arena of life where our motive is to bring God glory. The fruit is our only permanent deposit in heaven. Real fruit always lasts, and it's the main reason we were saved. We go back to Ephesians 2, verse 10. We were created in Christ for good works.
Wow.
And so, so a lot of that stuff was just neat to see and to think about. So, our purpose is generally the same. It's our vision that are different. It's the different unique things that we do in our lives where we're carrying out that purpose is where we're going to have individual differences, which is awesome. It says our dreams are always too small. We are here to fulfill God's dream, which is that we will bring him glory through a remarkably abundant life. And then the important thing to be aware of is that that's not automatic. The branches don't all respond alike. Every branch is unique with a different sized crop. And so it talks about there's four different quantities basically of fruit. And so in verse 2, it talks about every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away. So first is bearing no fruit, and then there's a branch that bears fruit, and then just after that it says that bears more fruit. So there's no fruit, more fruit, and then in verse 5 it talks about he who abides in me and I in him bears much fruit. So much fruit is the fourth one there. And so the question, how much fruit do you see in your life today? And But then the thing that really got me this morning was this thing here in verse 2, where it says, "Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away." And if you read some translations, in fact, the one I was actually reading says like he lops off or cuts off, and so a lot of the translations will say that, any branch in me that does not bear fruit, he cuts off. But the translation of it is actually airo, which is AIRO, which really means more take away, or take which really means more take up or lift up. There's no translation in Greek literature or the Bible where it means actually to cut off. It's also used in the disciples took up 12 baskets after Jesus had fed the 5,000, and also when Simon bears took up Jesus' cross. So it's really more of that lift up and cut up, lift up rather than cut off. And again, you have to notice the thing there where it says every branch in me. So these are people, these are Christians who have been saved, who are not bearing fruit. It's different from verse 6, where it says anyone does not abide in me is cast out as a branch and is withered. And so I just want to read this story here real quick. So he's talking then where he got real revelation on this lifting up process. He met a man at a pastor's conference. A background man came up to me and asked, "Do you understand John 15? And Bruce said, "Not completely. Why?" And the man said, "I own a large vineyard in Northern California, and I think I have it figured out." I offered to buy him coffee on the spot. As we sat across the restaurant table from each other, he began to talk about the life of a grower, the long hours spent walking the vineyards, tending the grapes, watching the fruit develop, waiting for the perfect day to be harvested. New branches have a natural tendency to trail down and grow along the ground, he explained, but they don't bear fruit down there. When branches grow along the ground, the leaves get coated in dust. When it rains, they get muddy and mildewed. The branch becomes sick and useless. "What do you do?" I asked. "Cut it off and throw it away?" "Oh no," he exclaimed. "The branch is much too valuable for that. We go through the vineyard with a bucket of water looking for those branches. We lift them up and wash them off. He demonstrated for me with dark, calloused hands. Then we wrap them around the trellis or tie them up. Pretty soon they're thriving." As he talked, I could picture Jesus' own hand motions when he taught in the vineyard that night. He was showing how the Father makes sure his crop comes in full and sweet. When the branches fall into the dirt, God doesn't throw them away or abandon them. He lifts them up, cleans them off, and helps them flourish again. Suddenly I had a burst of insight. Lift up, clean. I have never read John 15 in the same way again. For the Christian, sin is like dirt covering the grape leaves. Air and light can't get in. The branch languishes and no fruit develops. How does our vine dresser lift us from mud and misery? How does he move our branch from barren to beautiful so we can start filling up our basket? And the answer is the first secret of the vine, which is if your life consistently bears no fruit, God will intervene to discipline, to bring correction, and basically, the focus of bringing into repentance. And just, man, it was so impactful to me to think about that and to think about, how many times in our life where we or other believers that we know have, just in a point of not bearing fruit. And how in almost every situation you can go back and you can see that there's sin that is causing that and not allowing us to bear fruit, and that that people can look at that and think that if they're not bearing fruit that they're going to be way and cut off. Just to realize that God's heart towards us is to clean us up by the washing of the Word and in repentance, and to join us up with the rest of the vines that are bearing fruit. And so he tied that in with that verse 3 where it says, "You are already clean because of the word which I have spoken to you." And now you said that was the first time that it made sense of why that discussion of already being clean was in there with the discussion of lifting up those vines. So anyway, I just thought that was powerful stuff. There's a lot more, and so I was thinking maybe anybody who wants to. I talked to Michael about it this morning, and he's actually talking about coming by the office here to read the book quickly today. But I thought that anybody who wants to, we could read that and circle back around and discuss a little bit further, because it gets into the difference between discipline for, where sin is the root cause, versus pruning, which is the process brought on by those of us who are bearing fruit, and just the differences that there are between those two things. So, any thoughts from anyone? Sorry, that was me talking for quite a while, but my heart was full this morning. So,
Jeff, can you hear me? This is Kathleen.
I can. Hi, Kathleen.
Hi. That's so interesting, because when you first started reading it, and I don't know if anybody else felt this interpretation, but I also felt that there was meaning there, in the sense that in our life, not just ourselves, but the people or the things that we are surrounded with, if they're not bearing fruit, they need to be lopped off. And I don't mean it like we need to exclude everybody in our life, but we can't be our best godly person,
right? Right.
Or people, right?
Yeah, I mean, that goes back to the environment of branches that are along the ground and getting dusty and mildewy, and and our place is to be tied up and up with the other branches bearing fruit, and absolutely, that's a great point.
Are you saying that by others bearing fruit you mean not following and living for Jesus, or is that where you mean bearing fruit in other ways?
Yeah, I mean, with other believers who are bearing lasting fruit, kingdom fruit of, which is evangelism, in addition to just any other actions and things that we're doing that bring glory to God.
A thought that came to my mind on this is that when you're talking about a vine bearing fruit, that's what it's there for. It's to bear fruit. Mm-hmm. And when you translate that to us, there is a reason why we exist, a reason why we are here, a reason for which we are to live our lives. And when we're not bearing fruit, then we're in a situation where the vine is, we're not doing, we're not living in the way that we were created to be. And so you look at a human being. What was a human being created to be? And I think a good thing that I see is how often the church is called the bride of Christ. How often Israel is called the bride, and we are the bride of Christ, and so there's a certain character to that. But there's also a certain way that bride behaves, and there's a lot that that the bride does within the world, in the things that the bride does. And when we're not doing those things, then we're just kind of we're kind of just walking around in circles. And I don't think he means for us to just live this pointless existence or life. That vine was created for a reason, and that's to bear fruit. Yeah. And so there's a purpose, and that's an awesome thing, to actually have reason and purpose for the life you're living and the things you're doing. Everything you do, from the moment you get up to the moment you go back to sleep, has purpose in it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, I feel like if you see that purpose as well, it can only motivate you to fulfill it. As far as maybe, you say the purpose of life is, because God loves us, right? But the purpose that he wants you to fulfill. You know, if you have some sort of, you know, you have even a hunch or an idea, it's extremely motivating to be able to do that, and humbling in a way. So
Yeah, I think for me it was kind of like, all right, so if I know then that, you know, and I read Purpose Driven Life and you know, and a lot of good stuff in there too, but I mean, I think, you know, so many people talking about finding our purpose. You know, if we know that our purpose is to glorify God and bear fruit and know Him better and abide in Him, I mean, that's like a freeing thing. And then it's just a matter of what is my route going to take? What's the vision for my life in terms of the things that I'm going to be doing that He's called me to do. But if we know that that's ultimately our purpose is to bring Him glory and bear much fruit, then it's just kind of all right, what's that path going to look like? So
I think that there's something very encouraging as we move on from verse 2 on to verse 4, because even if we're not bearing fruit right now, we still have a chance, because the Lord goes and says in verse 4, abide in me and I in you. In other words, He's saying, even if you weren't bearing fruit, abide in me and listen to my instructions, because I will be in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit of itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. So it's not that we would be introspective of our circumstance, but really it's an encouraging word saying, hey, you might not have been bearing fruit before, but you still have a chance. Stay in me and stay in the body and stay in the church, and I will be in you and I will work through you, and I will be able to super abundantly work in you. Well, it doesn't use the word super abundant in this verse, but I know that Paul writes about that. So that we would actually be encouraged to stay in His presence.
yeah, no, that's thanks for bringing that up, Michael. Because I mean, you get so caught up in well, what am I going to do to do this, and you know, we can't bear fruit of ourselves.
Right.
So it's an interesting thing when you think about, you know, and oftentimes when you read this particular section of scripture, you think a lot about what does he mean by abide? Because that's one of those things. It's can mean a lot of different things. But I think if you draw the analogy out and you look at a particular branch in a vine, what is it that makes it bear fruit? Is that particular branch have some special ability or some special capability? Is it working it hard? What does a branch do? Well, the branch just takes nutrients
Right.
from the vine. It just takes the nutrients, it is fed from the vine, and as it's fed from the vine, it bears fruit. That's all the branch really needs to do is feed from the vine and take what the vine has to give it, and it will do what it was created to do.
Yeah, it's staying connected to.
Hey, Jeff, can I say something?
Hey, Joe.
Hey, buddy. This reminds me so much of, I don't know if you guys know Oswald Chambers, My Utmost for His Highest. But this was June 6th today. I would love to show you this because and it goes back to what we're talking about. We know how in the Bible that everything reflects back to, pretty much for me, everything else. You know, you find in this particular passage, in Oswald Chambers this morning in June 6th, he's reflecting on Philippians 2, 12 through 13. Work out your own salvation, for it is God who works in you. I mean, if you read today's Utmost for His Highest, it's this. It's exactly this.
Awesome.
We are the vine, and work out our own salvation, for it is God who works in you as the vine. It's incredible. This was awesome.
Yeah. So He's the vine, we're the branch. That's awesome. Thanks, Joe. So yeah, I mean this. So this is the book. If anybody can see it, I'll stop the share here again. So if anyone wants to, it's like a short little tiny book. It's like 126 pages long. So you know, if you want to grab a copy, let's maybe circle back around on it for some of the other ones on our next call. Okay. Sound good?
Awesome.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. I know a couple things. First off, so I want to, again, I also want to have this be a way where we can share any kind of upcoming things that we should know about as well. So we're going to talk about the meeting in just a little bit. I know Kathleen has to get going. Kathleen and I are going to do an event together coming up. So if anybody else is aware of good, you know, events that are going on for that we as Christian business people would value from connecting in with, then please let us know. So Kathleen, as many of you know, has a college planning practice, and especially very focused on the admissions and kind of the few years before college preparation side of things. And I have a lot of clients in my financial planning practice that, you know, that ask on some of those kinds of things. So we've decided we're going to do an event together coming up on June 27th. It'll be here at my office, probably 6:30 p.m. We're figuring out some of the details here still. But I thought before Kathleen has a meeting, I thought she could just share for a couple of minutes so that anybody that you know that especially has kids in high school, but even younger as well, could really benefit from. So Kathleen?
What's the date?
So it'll be June 27th, which is a Tuesday evening, probably at 6:30 p.m. And so Kathleen, maybe tell just a little bit more about some of what you'll cover and who will benefit from that.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name's Kathleen. I'm a certified college planning specialist, and I've been doing college counseling for about 15 years. Interestingly enough, one of the reasons I started doing what I'm doing is because I was very passionate about my own children and going to college, and went to everything that every parent was supposed to go to. And about 15 years ago, I was helping a friend do a workshop similar to what I'm going to do on June 27th that explained that very possibly you can go to a private university cheaper than a state or UC. So I started from that financial perspective. I love giving my workshops because I love empowering parents with knowledge so that they can make the best decisions for their students and their families. And that was with a particular focus on Christian families, because very often Christian families either homeschooled or went to private Christian high schools and then realized that perhaps they weren't going to be able to afford that private Christian college, when in reality, the private schools give out a lot of money. So my workshop covers a broad spectrum of data knowledge, but I try to keep it very simple and conceptual. I try to, first of all, talk about the cost of college from the states, the UCs, the privates, and what to expect as far as financial aid and student loans. I think, again, the most important thing, and why Jeff talked about perhaps even families that have students that are younger than high school, is so that you're prepared to know what to expect, because student loans are capped now. They're limited, and a lot of people don't realize that. And they say, well, we haven't saved. I'm sorry, we're going to have to get student loans, and they don't realize that they cannot anymore, and I'll be covering that. And then I talk about what are the sources of financial aid, outside scholarships, are we going to get any student loans, what are the amounts, parent loans, money from the colleges, and expanding that on to scholarships, which have become very important because the cost of college is so high, and a lot of people don't qualify for financial aid. And then, of course, the admissions aspect is very important because we're in a very, very competitive environment. So now colleges are looking beyond grades and beyond test scores. And I talk about what's important and what's prominent. and finding that right fit college for the student where they're going to thrive. It's actually the best time for students to go to college right now. They're teaching a lot of real world, hands-on, and there's a best fit for every student. I have actually a very faith-based career assessment that I'm going to be discussing as well. It was designed by a wonderful Christian man that felt that we should all be living our purpose. It's funny, we were talking about purpose-driven life, and his career assessment is better than anything else that's out there. So it helps me kind of really get to know the student on a very, very deep level. It's a powerful, powerful program. So I'll be discussing all of that. And that again is on June 27th at the conference room at Jeff's office building. And I believe he said we're going to start at 6:30.
Yep. Awesome. Sounds good. Sounds good. Anybody else, Michael? I think you have something coming up, but anybody else have any events that they're aware of that we should know about?
I have I host Cash Flow 101. I have my event coming up actually tomorrow night at the Keller Williams office in Carmel Valley. It starts at 6 p.m. And actually we have a guest speaker on investing into smaller and houses under $50,000. And then we play Cash Flow 101 as well.
Sounds good. And then I think he's also going to be talking to the meetup group for Phil Black, who
Yes.
came and talked with us a couple of months ago. They've invited Michael to come down there and talk kind of on a similar thing. That's next week, Monday night,
Right.
also at 6:30. So if you want to get some information on that, another great group of people up in the what's that? Cardiff, right?
Yeah,
Cardiff by the sea area. So
yeah, Cardiff. Yes, in
All right.
Cardiff by the sea at the library.
okay, awesome.
And that's
So
next Monday.
for our meeting coming up, thanks, Michael. So if anybody wants information on that, reach out to Michael or me. So our next meeting as the group is coming up June 19th at 6:30. Again, as always, third Monday of the month. That's that. All the information is on the meetup group site for that. This month is going to be a little bit different. We've got a pretty cool thing in that Tony Horace from Navy Fed is going to be able to get some Navy Fed money, and we're going to have a little bit of food there. So so my ask right now is if anybody has any and so we're not really going to need it catered necessarily. We can just set up some tables and all of that. But if anyone has any connections or thoughts on what would make for some good food items, that's above my pay grade, and I would love to have some professionals come in and and assist with helping me on planning some of that. We can get the budget from Tony, but yeah, it'd be nice to have a little bit of food there. So come right at 6:30. We'll have a chance to have some food, bring some guests. I'm actually going to be having a really neat guy coming and sharing with us here as well. Let me. No, go away. Mike Laban. I've known him for a good number of years now. Play racquetball with him. Known him some through my pastor as well, and just an incredible guy. He was gonna speak a month or so ago and had to change that, but he's going to be able to come in and just share with us his story, which is actually pretty amazing. He went through a lot of studying of the Bible. He owns Laban's Landscaping, about 70 employees, really successful landscaping company. But down here you can see he set a goal of giving away more than $1 million. He's attained that goal and is now working toward giving away another $1 million. Entrepreneur, speaker, author, but just a really, really good guy. So he's going to come in. He's got some things on his heart for sharing for us that you definitely don't want to miss. And then kind of from our conversation last time, we're also going to be having at least a few members being able to share a little bit more fully on their business. So if you would like to be considered for that this time, please reach out to me, shoot me an email, and we can talk that through a little bit more afterwards. And then we have a couple of other things planned as well. So anyway, so it's going to be a great meeting. Invite some other people that fit, and we'll have a great time. So the one last thing that I wanted to show, since it's sometimes hard to do in the group meetings where we're all together, but this is our closed Facebook group page. So if you are not in the group, go ahead and send me an email, or just go ahead and search for me. This is me, in case you need to find me. But just do a friend request to me, and then I can get you connected into the group as well. And that just is a place for notifications and everything with that. And so if you're in there, then you can click on this meetup sign right here. And this is a link through to our YouTube page. So the YouTube page brings up here. And here you can see we've got a few interviews that are set up. And so again, the goal is to get member interviews for every single one of our members, which is just an opportunity to do more than just share the 1 minute kind of introduction that we sometimes do in our groups, and really get to know each other a little bit better. So go ahead and go check out some of those. But right now, we're going to go ahead and do a couple more of these interviews. And so I know some of you need to peel off the call. If that's the case, then fine. God bless you. Thanks for being able to come on, and we look forward to having you there on the 19th. Reach out to me if you can help with anything related to planning for the food, or any ideas, or you want to possibly have a chance to talk at this next meeting. But what we're going to do right now is, anybody who wants to stay on, go ahead and turn off your videos. So just down in the bottom left-hand corner, except for you, Chrissy. And then I am going to change the view to where it's just Chrissy and I showing, to make it a little bit better for viewing. And then, so again, all of these will be recorded. We'll have them up in that YouTube channel then as soon as possible. Before I go, any questions or anything that anybody wants to say?
Can you hear me, Jay?
Yeah.
I just say that Lasagna Pritzker should probably do some stuff along the line of catering and stuff like that at our next meeting.
Yeah, Noel?
Yeah.
Say it one more time.
Lasagna, she'll be at the next meeting.
Yeah.
But she wants to share Pritzker Enterprises, which is her company. And so we've been talking, and so she's going to be there, and I'll let her know about bringing some food, catering something.
Because she has connections with it?
She can make it.
Okay.
She can bring something for us to eat. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Yeah, let's talk afterwards. We've got a budget. Tony's finalizing that, but we've got some budget to buy some stuff, and if she wants to help with anything, we can certainly do that as well.
Okay.
And in the future, I think we've I guess my wife wasn't able to get on here today. But anyway, so we talked about maybe for some of the future meetings being a little bit more organized, where we don't have an actual food, and a little bit more organized. Maybe people bring in some waters, or snacks, or something like that. So we could talk about that a little bit more as well. All right.
All right. I'll just say goodbye. And it was good meeting with you guys.
Thanks, Ken. Glad you could be on. Look forward to hopefully seeing you in a couple weeks. Dan,
Likewise.
thanks for connecting in, Dan. I'll look forward to talking with you a little bit more sometime soon.
Okay, bye.
All right. Okay. And then, everybody else who can stay on, I'm going to go ahead and stop this recording.